and welcome to Literary Prospects, where we talk to authors and literary professionals about books, publishing, and the writing life. I'm Kelley Vick. I'm the host of the program, and in just a moment, it will be my pleasure to introduce today's guest. But first, a reminder that if you like what you hear, please do take a moment to subscribe. It helps us out, and you can make sure you never miss an episode. Also, we've opened a Literary Prospects shop, so if you're looking for bookish shirts, totes, and gifts, please check that out at literaryprospects.etsy.com. And to grab books featured on the podcast and check out more curated book lists, you can visit the Literary Prospects bookstore on bookshop.org. And last, but certainly not least, if you're interested in extra content on querying and publishing that's only for our members, please consider joining the Literary Prospects Patreon at patreon.com/literary prospects. We'll leave all those links below in the show notes. And now, let's introduce today's guest. Virginia Trench studied English at Vanderbilt University before earning an MA in secondary education at CU Boulder. Her professional background includes teaching writing, ghostwriting for the occasional tech executive or TV star, blogging, and managing STEM programs for girls. Her debut thriller, Our Secrets Were Safe, is out now. When she's not writing, Virginia can be found exploring the Rocky Mountains, struggling on a yoga mat while her cat judges her, or devouring the latest crime novels and podcasts. She lives in Colorado with her family. Virginia Trench, thank you so much for joining today to discuss your debut thriller, Our Secrets Were Safe. Kirkus Reviews says every single character has a secret so dark, or perhaps a revenge wish so visceral, that they would kill for it. The twists and turns and reveals are skillfully placed. The women might be dissolute in various ways, but their personalities are not restricted to their flaws. At the end of it all, Trench is calling the men to account and to punishment. A confident and wickedly sinuous debut. Author Amy Tintera says Virginia Trench's debut is a sharp, propulsive thriller that sucks you in from page one, packed with unforgettable characters and chilling twists. Our Secrets Were Safe is an engrossing read you won't want to put down. Author Andrea Bartz says it's dark, intricate, and surprising. And author Avery Bishop says, devious and twisty in all the right ways. Virginia Trench's debut is everything you could wish for in a psychological suspense thriller. Twisted characters you can't trust? Check. Multiple points of view? Double check. Dual timeline? Triple check. An ending you won't see coming? Quadruple check. Whatever you do, don't miss it. So, with that, what?
Yeah, I think I'll just head out actually.
Okay, great.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I think we hit the nail on the head.
Excellent. Well, this was great. It was fun having
Very
you.
efficient. Thank you so much, Kelley.
What can you tell us? What can you add? What can you tell us about Our Secrets Are Safe? How do you describe it?
I would describe Our Secrets as a thriller girlies thriller. I wrote it to be the kind of book that you can curl up with a glass of wine at the end of a long day, or throw in your tote bag to go to the pool or go to the beach. I absolutely love mysteries. I grew up on Agatha Christie, and more recently, I'm such a huge fan of writers like Gillian Flynn, Lisa Jewell, all of it. Absolutely love it. I wanted to write a thriller that I love, the kind of book that I love to read. It's about guilt. It's about what happens when you try to bury the past and not cope with trauma. It's about twisted family secrets. And I had an absolute blast writing it. So I hope people enjoy reading it.
I think they will. And you can tell you had a blast writing it.
Oh, good. I'm glad that came through.
What was the spark that got this started for you, this particular story?
Yeah, I think the main inspiration was Sophia. So it's told from three points of view. And one thing I wanted to be sure to incorporate was the point of view of the victim. And that's why we have two timelines. There was no way I was going to let her not have a voice and a presence in a story that's really about her death and the circumstances that led to it. So I think that was the main inspiration of what led to Sophia's life ending in the way it did, and how that would play out if two people thought they got away with a terrible crime. But then just showing how the sequence of events touched so many lives that basically it shows it would be impossible to truly get away with what happens in the story. But yeah, all started with Sophia.
How did Sophia come to you?
I don't know, she just showed up one day. I wish I had like a sophisticated answer
Yeah.
to that. But I liked the idea of someone who was who was wealth adjacent, who kind of grew up in a resort town, but was a long-term resident, not part of a summer crowd. So that the
Mhm.
Nantucket background made sense there. And then attended an elite university, but as a scholarship student at Yale, but just being exposed to a tremendous amount of privilege and wealth that so many take for granted. And I think that plays really interestingly into her relationship with the Archers and into something I think a lot of people can relate to, even if, Sophia's circumstances are quite extreme. But the wanting something that you can't have, I think, is something very human, something very universal. And so I thought that would humanize her a bit, even though she's messy. All the characters in this book are very, very messy. But I wanted to try to incorporate as many, um, maybe not relatable, but common human dilemmas in all the characters, but in particularly in Sophia. Um, as she tries to navigate many tricky situations.
The book is often being described as being about female rage.
Mhm.
How do you feel about that description?
Oh, I love it. And that is very intentional.
Mhm.
And I wrote a blog post recently about how I think the thriller genre is kind of the perfect conduit for female rage, and particularly how that has become more present and more acceptable in cultural conversations, particularly within the last 10 years, the advent of the Me Too movement, the reelection of a sex criminal as president of the United States, and many conversations about the division of labor in marriage, in motherhood, lack of equality and access to healthcare. I could spend the rest of this podcast just continuing down the bullet points.
Mhm.
Um, but I think the thriller genre is really built on power imbalance, and there's really no better vehicle for female rage than starting with the many power imbalances that women deal with every day.
I love that so much. You've said that you hope readers take away from this book that there are no easy choices in the face of some issues, and that the bigger, more important questions lie in why many of these choices the characters are forced to make are so common, necessary, and real in the first place. Can you talk a little more about that?
Gosh, I sound a lot more intelligent when I can spend 5 minutes answering questions. But as much as I love the thriller genre, I got a little tired of the culprit being the big bad investment banker husband who may look like Mr. Perfect, but turns out he's a sociopath. I wanted to write a story where really no one's hands are clean in this series of events. And they all make choices that are very easy to judge, and that many people would say, "Oh, I can't believe she did that. I can't believe she would how does she not realize the consequences of her actions? I can't believe she did that, knowing that that would happen, or not thinking about it. People are imperfect. And I think that it's just a lot less perfect characters don't make for very interesting stories. And I wanted to write it in a way that sparked conversation and not, in a way that made people think, oh, I would totally want to be best friends with Caroline after all of that, because for me, that's no fun.
The story's told in a dual timeline from several points of view. Um, we mentioned we get Sophia's point of view and a close third person in the past timeline.
Yeah.
And then we get Caroline and Brooke, each in first person in the narrative present timeline. How did you decide on this particular structure?
Really, two main reasons. One, Sophia had to have a presence in the story. I don't really like the dead girl stays silent through a book about her, ultimately her murder.
Yeah.
The second was I wanted to play on the she said of it all and
Mhm.
how, the characters will experience the same set of events, but have completely different takeaways, different perceptions. And I liked the idea of each of them thinking they have a firm grasp of what's going on, but truly they only have a tiny fraction of the puzzle. So I think that's great in a thriller. So really just for those two reasons. And I know it definitely gets complicated. I probably needed one of those crazy people, serial killer cork boards to put it all together. But yeah, I like things twisty and complicated. It's a complicated story. So yeah.
Well, speaking of the cork boards, what is your process like? What was your process like when you were working on this? How did you keep it all straight?
In true Capricorn fashion, I am hyper
Fellow
ordered.
Capricorn here, so
Oh, I knew I liked you. I'm definitely a planner. I outlined the entire story and tweaked as I went along. But I'm not nearly the level of evil genius that's necessary to come up with a great thriller. I relied heavily on my literary agent and my editor. They're both brilliant. They're both amazing. And three heads are definitely better than one. And they were instrumental in differentiating each voice, nailing down the timeline, and just making sure everything lined up and closing all the plot holes and such. So really, I have an incredible network of queens. Helping me with this stuff and a dizzying network of Google document outlines powering all of this stuff.
I love that you bring into front and center that there are multiple people that go
Totally
into
necessary.
making a book. I think like there's often this misconception that it's one author like sitting in the dark by themselves trying to figure all of this out.
Oh my
And
God, it would just be incomprehensible drivel if that were the case. And yeah, no, I'm so grateful for them for their support, and it's a much better story with multiple perspectives. Because I think it's so true in writing in general. You'll write something that makes perfect sense in your mind because it's your creation, and there's so many unspoken supporting ideas and a logic behind it that might not be expressly on the page. So it's so important to have people checking that and making sure it makes sense to a reader.
yeah. Did you find that you deviated at all from the outlines that you had planned when you were writing? Were there surprises as you were writing for yourself?
Yes, I had to make one devastating change that I reluctantly, so originally Sophia's chapters were diary entries. And
Huh.
at the end of the book, Brooke would find the diary. Like that would be the last piece that I think I forget which supporting character would send it to her. But it was like, you know what? It's gotten too crazy. This is having all because that would obviously necessitate a all first person, three points of view timeline is like, no, this has to make sense to people. You have to. So I just have what I call a graveyard on my computer where I put all my beautiful ideas that don't make it into the story, and you just have to be cool with that as a writer. It just not everything can make it into the story. But surprises as I was writing. On it, I think this came up in another podcast I did recently. It comes up mostly in dialogue between the characters. I don't plan out obviously how exactly what they will say. before I write a scene, but not the exact words, but it is fun when I think, oh my gosh, that is exactly how this person's voice would come out. And this is how they would react to being betrayed by their friend or whatever else is coming up in the situation. So that's always fun.
You've said that everyone in this book has a different relationship with time. What do you mean by that?
I think it's really a different relationship with the past. Like some people or certain Sophia, for instance, is clinging to this golden era in her relationship, and she would give anything to get that back. So she's trying to, almost go back in time. I think at one point, um, she says it's a memory I want to crawl into and never come out. So she is really fighting to keep that. Brooke wants to pretend like nothing ever happened, clean slate, move forward. She has this great new man. She's about to get married, great new job. She just wants to, look straight ahead. And Caroline, I think, is similar, but she is so devoted to her brother Leo, who is a hot mess for many, many, many reasons. And his addiction makes it really impossible for her to move on and to really part ways with her family dynamic. And I think that's so interesting with siblings, how, people can be full adults in the world. But those who knew us as children really have a way of bringing out our inner, I don't know, 10-year-old. So we can be like, say, a 34-year-old successful aspiring CEO. But when you're around your crazy addict brother, suddenly you're 15 again, struggling to deal with the trauma your stepfather inflicted on you. Um, so I had a great, I just think that it's so fundamental to the book, a big part of the dual timeline thing. That's a great question. I had a great time with that in writing Our Secrets. I was like, what's the book called again? Our Secrets.
What draws you to mysteries and thrillers?
What doesn't? What's not to love? I mean, truly, I think
I agree.
it's the darker side of human nature. It's the saying the quiet part out loud. I think it's the messiness. I love the drama. My second novel is about a dating app con artist and a group of women who take him down. So I think it's a really useful vehicle to explore just like current cultural phenomena. I don't know, the plural of that. Um, um, yeah, I'm here for the drama. I'm here for the dark, juicy sides of human nature. And it's always interesting to throw in something culturally relevant, into the mix.
You've said that you want to see more women in the thriller genre. I think we touched on that a little bit.
Yes, women who are not tied up in a basement specifically. I'm for the Amy Dunns. I'm here for, I feel like her, it was on July 5th. That's her iconic Independence Day monologue from the movie Gone Girl.
Mhm.
When it really, when it's sort of, it's at the point in the book and in the movie when that layer is peeled back and it's revealed that she's kind of the mastermind behind it all. I would love to see an Amy Dunn for every Don Draper, every Stringer Bell, every Walter White, because men shouldn't have all the anti-hero fun. Like it's time to even the score a little bit.
Have you always been a writer?
Yes. And this is in the acknowledgments of my book. I have receipts in my fourth grade yearbook. It says under professional aspirations, I either wanted to be an actress, a teacher, or an author. The first one, thank God, is not going to happen. But we checked off the second two. So I've always loved to read, always been such a nerd for stories. And yeah, actually, that is the case. And it is kind of fun. I have a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. And my 2-year-old obviously can't read, but she does have her own copy of Mama's book that she keeps in her room, and she likes to take it out and pretend to read it. So who knows? Maybe we'll have a second generation coming up here.
Yeah. What was the road to publication like for you then?
Long. But I got really, really lucky also. I think I queried 80 plus agents, again, with the spreadsheets and the crazy Google documents. I connected with the absolutely brilliant Tess Calero, who saw, I mean, just the hot mess of the first draft to the finished hardcover version of Our Secrets Are Safe. It really is wild, the impact she and my editor, Lori, had on the story. So grateful to both of them. And it's tough, the rejection, but I just kept telling myself throughout the process it would be harder to know that I didn't try,
Yeah.
like I didn't want to have that regret in life. And I thought, this crazy story, I know what you did last summer, Pretty Little Liars on steroids will probably never leave my computer, but I have to give it a shot, or I just will carry that regret with me for the rest of my life. And fortunately, I found someone who is incredibly talented and really believed in the book. And she found another person who's incredibly talented and really believed in the book and actually believed in a second book. And so here we are. I feel like the luckiest, I almost said luckiest girl alive, but
I heard it coming.
that's the level of, is that here? No, I have her, the brilliant Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll, but I'm not kidding when I say total thriller nerd here. But yeah, it was a long road. I was talking with Lori the other day, my editor at Crown, that I finished the first full semi-polished draft before my 2.5-year-old was born. And now it's coming out in 2 weeks. I can't believe it's been wild, wild ride.
And now, two-book deal, it sounds like you
Mhm.
alluded to. So, what does that feel like? You've been working on this first one for, I don't know, how long were you working on the first one?
Total, like sat down and wrote the first sentence to now, probably about 4 years.
So, 4 years, and you find out you're going to get that one published. And then also, we would like for you to write another one. And I'm assuming it's a lot shorter, the time that you get to work on the second one. Is there a lot of pressure there? How?
Only in the best way. I was like, oh my gosh, they'll let me write more. I want to write like 50 books before I'm dead. So it pressure, but in the best way. And I was joking with Lori yesterday that I didn't really take maternity leave when my 3-month-old was born because I'm of course working on books 3, 4, and 5.
Wow.
Um, I'm not, I just love it. Writing is the best job that I've ever had, and I will do it as long as they let me. Yeah.
What is your daily routine like?
Honestly, it's gotten messy stepping away from writing and stepping into mom world for a
Yeah.
second. The adjustment from one kid to two has really kicked my ass like lately. So I used to have just the most beautiful, simple writing routine. I will have a more concrete answer I think once edits for Mr. Disappear, the second book, Mr. Disappear, are wrapped up and our 3-month-old just started sleeping through the night consistently, so we're just kind of reemerging into the land of the
Wow.
functional living. But and I was reading, I love Stephen King. I want to put that out there before I say what I'm about to say. I was reading his iconic memoir on writing, and he was like, "Yeah, you really have no excuse not to write 2,000 words a day." Oh yeah, and by the way, my wife, Tabby, was watching our 3 children and doing all the cooking and the housework. I'm like, oh, but what if you're Tabby? But like, what if you're Tabitha in this equation? Like, how does that math make the math, Steve?
Right.
Um, so I don't have a great routine figured out yet with the 2 kids in the mix, but I certainly hope so because I want to write more.
What was the routine like
Great
before
question.
the upheaval of
The
the
before times, um,
in the
yeah,
before times?
in the before times, we have our both girls in daycare full time, so early morning rush, getting the girls off to daycare. I don't know. I would either read something that I've written. Sometimes I would stop. Like one technique I don't use consistently, but it is helpful. Starting writing every day can be challenging. So if I know that I'm not going to want to get off my ass and write, I will literally stop mid-sentence. Even if the sentence is super simple, like she opened the door or she crossed the room or something,
Mhm.
just stop in the middle of the sentence. So it gives a really easy place to start. Or I will read the prior page up until that point and then just I don't know. I'm a big believer in shitty first drafts. And knowing just going th through the full editorial process was very eye-opening for me. I lost track of the number of rounds of changes I went through with Our Secrets Were Safe. Not that it was ever bad. I'm a big believer in this book, obviously, very
Mhm.
biased. But it's just part of the process. So it's important not to get too precious about it and just accept that, it's a living document, and there will be many opportunities to change. And like some of the sentences that I spent like hours perfecting might not even make it into the final draft. So don't sweat it. Um, I will sometimes, I don't know, often I will need to, like, I have to move throughout the day. Uh,
Mm.
Sometimes I'll put like a little, I need to get an actual standing desk, but I'll just put this board on top of our treadmill and write sometimes during the day.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I have no secret. I try to write at least, for a while I was cranking out the 2,000 words. I was like, suck it, Steven. Um, yeah, I did that and I made dinner. So yeah. Um, But yeah, we'll see what that looks like now. We will see what that looks like now.
When you get a new idea for a story, what is the very next thing that happens? Do you then sit down and begin to outline? Do you
Yeah,
start writing a little bit and getting to know the characters? Is that happening in tandem? Sort of, what does that look like?
the first thing I do is I write the back of the book description because that will, if I have to be able to concisely describe a story, and that forces a lot of quick decisions. Like I have to know who the main characters are. I have to know the ending. I have to know um sort of where obviously the setting and where it will take place and all of these things. And it's just a good testing exercise to see, will this sell? Are there other books like this out on the market right now?
Mhm.
So that's usually the first thing I'll do.
Um, you have a framed drawing of a tooth in your office. Is that right?
Yes, you're the first person to notice that. That is an actually I can show you all of this stuff. This is an homage to many, many, many murder mysteries. The Tooth is from Sharp Objects by the iconic Gillian Flynn. At the end of the novel, it turns out the missing teeth were nailed into a dollhouse by one of the murderers in the story. And I don't know. I think that has only ever been like when I found it on Etsy, it was like dentist art for like a dentist office. I think this is the first time it's used for this specific purpose, but I've got my Agatha Christie vintage poster, Anne Boleyn for really no reason. There's like a sound art for a Peggy Lee song that inspired my second book.
Oh, that
There's
is great.
a Handmaid's Tale quote up there that um, really inspired book three. There's more little weird stuff in my other cabinet of curiosities over there. But yes, and then this is Pemberley behind me. So it's not all murdery. Some some book and some history related things. But yeah, just keeping it weird.
I
We
love
like
it.
weird.
I love it. What do you know now that you wish you had known before publishing your first novel?
Hmm. It's hard to pick just one thing.
Well, you
Um,
can pick several.
to not fret about, oh, that wine glass is one word. It's okay. That okay, you have to spell it out. OKAY. Hundreds of times had to make that change in my draft.
Mhm.
So obviously starting with the really deep, important stuff. Um,
I'm sitting here like thinking wine glass is one word.
I know. I know. It like shattered my world. Um, I think to take more mental health breaks, there were definitely times when I was frantically refreshing my inbox, got my heart broken by a couple of literary agents and editors, and just to know that it takes time, which is antithetical to uh again, the Capricorn thing is just like that doesn't really always go over super well with our kind. Um, but just try to be patient, always try to have fun with it. What else? And one thing I did with my second book that I really, really wish that I had done with my first one, was as I wrote the book, I did chapter one, here's the date that this takes place on. Here's a one sentence summary of what happens. And it's really useful, especially for thrillers,
Yeah.
to check the timeline of events. Super important because there's always that, you want to check for plot holes, and there's always that reader that's like, well, that doesn't make sense because she said on this page that this happened on this date, but you want to make things believable. And I was chatting with my editor the other day, like the Mr. Disappear takes place in 2025. And I reference Tinder, and she's like, "What are you talking about? If this would be Hinge at this point, because that was the most popular, that's a more popular, more realistic dating app for people who are looking for relationships." Like, oh, you're absolutely right. This isn't 2019 or whenever. I haven't been on dating apps in, God, over a decade. So gotta make that change. And at some point, it will be someone's job to go in and do that. I'm just like, oh my God. That should not be someone's job to do that. I can easily do that as a writer just to make the editorial team's lives a little easier. So, yeah, that's probably the most practical writer tip I would give my past self, aside from wine glass, one word. Um, Try to be patient, basically impossible, but might as well try. And then the timestamp summary thing, super useful.
I'm learning a lot of very important things today. What is your best or favorite piece of advice for aspiring authors?
Read like it's your job because it will be if you're successful at writing. I say this as someone who's like just starting out, but barely who has found the first step of success as a writer. It brings you joy, it gives you ideas. It's important to know what's been done. It helps you hone your voice. It helps you connect with people in the community. I am proud to say that I commented on Lisa Jewell's story the other day, and she liked my comment, and that basically, so we're basically best friends. Like it made my whole
Yeah.
day. No, I think she's just very active on social media and very kind to people who interact with her. Yeah, but just don't forget the joy of reading. It really it doesn't matter, particularly in your genre. Like right now, I finally convinced my husband to read East of Eden, which is my favorite book of all time. And it's just such a breath of fresh. It's been a while since I've read like a classic. But even that has just been a really nice breath of fresh air, just reading a real, God, this is a masterpiece. Just from an inspiration standpoint. Not that I would ever write like John Steinbeck and write like 3 pages and then say, all that is to say they lived in the Salinas Valley. It's not really my style, but it is still great. Yeah, read all the time.
We have a traditional last question
Great.
to the
Let's hear it.
podcast, and it is When Our Secrets Were Safe is made into a movie or series.
Ooh.
What do you think the theme song should be?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked me this because I make playlists for all of my books. The song I kept coming back to was Don't Blame Me by Taylor Swift. Um, and the chorus specifically, Don't blame me, love made me crazy. If it doesn't, you ain't doing it right. Lord save me. My drug is my baby. I'll be using for the rest of my life. Um, that has multiple layers of meaning in the context of Our Secrets Were Safe. And it's dramatic. If I mean, it is definitely Reputation vibes. Like the whole revenge arc is very Our
Mm-hmm.
Secrets, but 100% Taylor Swift Reputation era specifically. Don't blame me.
Oh, that's perfect. I'm excited to see it all come about now.
Oh, fingers crossed. I think it would make a fun Netflix movie, in my
Yes,
opinion.
it would. We'll be seeing it. I'm sure of it.
Well,
Virginia,
man,
thank you so much for coming on today. It's been
thank you. This
really
was
fun
fun.
getting to talk to you.
Likewise.
Thanks for joining us on Literary Prospects. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review. We'll see you next time.